Jabroni, Jabronixyz, oh, it doesn't matter, you spell jabroni.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Two Jabronis with a Wrestling Podcast. BJ Cruz here with my tag team partner, the diva himself, the man who made me wait a few minutes to start the show because his French press coffee needed to finish, the incomparable Jeremy Loss. Jay, what is up, dude?
It is delicious, though.
I'm not saying
French press coffee is undefeated.
I'm not saying it's not delicious.
I know it takes a little bit more time, but some French press coffee with some oat milk, I'm living the best life. I've lost like almost 10 pounds.
Listen to this pretentious vegan just spitting this vitriol
My
all over.
My poops have literally just been lettuce. It's been really weird.
There you go. That's we should pitch that to Vince as a character, a guy who just poops lettuce.
It's been a wild ride for this week that I've been vegan. But yeah, I mean, we made it through the weekend here in California without melting.
Sort
so
of.
I would take that as a win.
Yeah, sort of, but very close, very close. We are, of course, brought to you by the Blue Wire Network and our friends over at betonline.ag. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you download your podcasts. And if you're one of our fantastic Apple Podcast users, please, please, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling spicy, leave a review. And for our Spotify people, hit us with that follow and help us climb those Spotify podcast charts.
And make sure that you subscribe and like our YouTube channel. There's a red button somewhere around here. Hit that red button. Really help us out. Subscribe, leave comments, do all that good stuff. Really does help us out. Make sure that you also follow us on social at 2JabronisPod on Twitter and on Instagram and within the BR app. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy A. Loss, and you can follow Ben at Cruise Control. That's control with a K, and I apologize. This new camera it looks great, but you also get a gigantic glare off my glasses, so you get to see what I'm seeing. It's almost like VR in a way. So
a little behind the scenes look at what we're doing over here. All right, we had a big weekend in wrestling. Literally, so many hours of wrestling were spent on Saturday. I had plans. I had plans on Saturday night with the wife. I said, oh, let's just go after All Out is over. All Out ended at damn near 9 o'clock California time. So needless to say, in the doghouse a little bit. But it is now time to stick to wrestling. And for this week's Stick to Wrestling, we're talking All Out, or as I like to call it after it ended, Dynamite 2.0.
This wasn't even a good Dynamite episode. This was okay. I'm diving in right now because I have takes.
Here we go. Oh, he's fired up.
The worst pay-per-view of the All Out era or the All Elite era.
Ooh.
This was
okay. Here we go.
Borderline terrible. From
Whoa.
To finish.
Here we go.
It was so bad. I've never been disinterested in All Elite so much. Like, I was completely disinterested in about half of the show. What really took me out, to be honest, was the Hardy situation. I thought that was handled extremely poorly.
I think that took everyone out of it. It was so weird how they usually handle situations like this pretty well. I mean, they're obviously still in their infancy as a company, but the way that they handled that was a little bit of a nightmare. Not a little bit. It was a lot of nightmare.
It was terrible. I've never seen that happen before where the ref is giving the X signal
twice, multiple times.
Initially, where everybody's like, oh my God, he's knocked out. He was flat as a board, stiff, laying there, and she was giving the X, and then they let the match continue. And I know that they tried to cover their bases by saying like, oh, we checked with a doctor. Like, when did you check with a doctor? Like, in the 30 seconds between him being completely knocked out to him like stumbling around the ring? Like, yeah, I understand that they really wanted to get that finish over because the finish was for Hardy to win. But I was even seeing stuff online where like there's a way to have that match finish with the same result where Hardy's out of it. Like you have him leave, you have Private Party come in. It's a no disqualification match. Hardy beats the 10 count. The moment he stands up, you get him the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
You're like, we're taken to the hospital immediately. You have Private Party come in, do the bump off the rafter, and Sammy loses that way. I mean, that's an easy way that you can continue the match, have the finish that you need, and get Hardy out of that, because it was horrible to see what he had. Like, he couldn't walk. And then he's climbing up a fucking scaffolding.
Sammy had to help him beat the 10 count. That when he was getting up, like I was like, oh, he's not going to make it. And Sammy literally pulls him up because he knows that that's the finish, that Matt is supposed to beat him. The thing that got me was Tony Khan saying that Matt went through concussion protocol, and that's why the doctor signed off. Like you said, where did he go through concussion protocol? Right? In that time that you cut away from him walking from the backstage area to the ring, that's your concussion protocol? That just doesn't make any sense, right? Like in the NFL, if, someone gets hit in the head and they have to go through concussion protocol, and in the off chance that they come back, they're gone for a significant amount of time, right? They're running concussion tests vigorously because they understand the dangers that come with playing football and head injuries and all that. And wrestling should be the same, because head injuries happen all the time, right? Like wrestling just has this dark history of concussions, of unreported concussions, and for them in good conscience to try and finish that match with the way that they wanted to was bizarre. And again, to put Matt in even more danger and say, hey, go climb that scaffolding. Like let's get the finish that we needed. Like that's insane. And you can tell that Sammy kind of exited through that side door on that ramp that was headed down toward the ring, and obviously that's where he was told the new finish. They said go there immediately, right? Like let's just get the hell out of here. But Matt, you could just see in his eyes he was gone, right? He
the
was
moment he
fully
tries to stand up, he falls over again, and it's like that for me. Like I'm a huge combat sports fan, and like when you see that in a boxing match, if a guy stands up and immediately falls down, they call the match, like it's done, and like it was really dangerous. I mean, they fell from what kind of constitutes as like a second story window, and he hit his head on fucking concrete.
I mean, the minute they started that spot by climbing up to get down onto the table, I was like, that doesn't look like a lot of room, because obviously they were going to go through the table. Obviously someone was going to put something through that table, and there just wasn't a lot of leeway, right? Like there should have been a second table. There should have been something else there, to kind of prevent this. But once it happens, if it happens, it happens, right? That's just wrestling, and you have to adjust on the fly. They made no adjustments, and it was really, really, really rough to watch. And for the doctor to sign off on that, you have to protect the wrestlers from themselves, right? Matt was obviously going to want to continue, and it's crazy too, because I had the night before, I listened to his interview on the Chris Van Vliet show, which you should all go check out. Shout out to CVV, our fellow Blue Wire Wrestling brethren. And he had this, during the interview, he talks about how he always had to talk Jeff Hardy out of doing crazy spots, right? Because Jeff was always thinking how am I going to do this for the fans? Let me push the limit a little bit. And Matt was always the one saying, hey, let's pull it back. And it was just so ironic that they had two spots like this that Matt doesn't need to be doing. Right? Nope. Let's start there. Matt Hardy has nothing to prove. He's a badass. He's one of the best ever in terms of pulling off these types of matches. Why was he pushing himself to do that? And that's fine. You want to do it, your career is kind of winding down, and you want to have a couple more of these moments. Cool. I'm with that. The minute something goes wrong, you got to call it.
See, and that's another thing that I'm having issues with when it comes to AEW is they are putting their talent at immense risk with the spots that they are asking them to do, especially Darby Allin. I mean, the powerbomb spot that he had in the Battle Royale where he's in the bag was extremely dangerous. Not only because he's in a body bag taking a bump and he can't really tell where he's going, but he could have easily hit his head on those stairs. And then you also look at like the Meteora that happened in the Shida Thunder Rosa match. Like Thunder Rosa was inches
She almost
away
hit her
from
head.
hitting the back of her head on those stairs. Like,
yep.
They just like, I know that we talk a lot about like how WWE kind of really takes away from the wow factor sometimes in the way that they conduct their matches, because they really want to take precaution when it comes to saving their wrestlers because they got to work so much. But like, I think AEW has to start imploring some of those like those rules, because there's just some things that like are dumb. Like that is a dumb risk to take, especially for Darby, who is consistently taking these absurd risks for what? Like for a pop?
Right.
Like,
for like that momentary thrill.
And I think now it's starting to wear on people, because like for a while there, people are like, oh my God, Darby's doing crazy shit. Like, and they were loving it. And now you start seeing those bumps and you're like, why? Especially in the wake of like the Hardy situation. You're just like, why? Why are we doing this?
What's interesting too is, I don't know if you remember when Randy Orton was cutting these promos. I think it was during his feud with Jeff Hardy like a year or two ago. And he called out Jeff for like doing all this crazy shit. And Randy was getting shit on because he quote unquote played it safe. But look at Randy, right? Look at the longevity that this man has had in his career. Like it's wild. And he's arguably doing the best work of his career right now. And it's because he doesn't constantly put himself in those spots. Like, yeah, he's had hellacious matches. He's taken hellacious bumps, but not to the point of like a Jeff Hardy, a Darby Allin, where you're legitimately concerned for their safety, right? Like, look, I want to be entertained as a wrestling fan. Do I want that entertainment at the price of another human being sacrificing potentially like years off their life? Absolutely not. Like, it's not that deep for me. I don't think it's that deep for anyone, right? Like, we just want good matches. We want, entertainment to remove ourselves from reality for like an hour or two. But like, again, the kind of working backwards to your point, like the body bag bump, and then the mat situation in general was, I think the overarching point here was that the Hardy situation removed us from the rest of the pay-per-view, right? Because that match should have been great. It was probably headed towards somewhere great, but once it happens, and then the whole time you're just like, this is bad. This is so bad for Matt, and you're just genuinely concerned. And I mean, you saw the tweets from his wife, right? Like she was freaking out, genuinely concerned, as she should be, right? You just watched your husband take one of the worst bumps probably of his career, and you're just like, we've got like kids at home, and it's so weird. It was so bizarre. And I mean, luckily there were some decent matches after that, but it definitely put a damper on the evening.
It really like dampered the Thunder Rosa Shida match, which was directly after that, because that was
a little cloud
outside
hovering
of Mox MJF was the match of the night. That was a great really match. Good. And it had no energy because the crowd was still dealing with the situation. The people at home were still dealing with the situation of Matt Hardy, and like the announcers are coming in and giving updates.
Like those are kayfabe updates too, right?
And the updates are getting updated like 20 minutes later. Like, Matt Hardy said he was good to go, so we continued. And they're like, oh, that's not good enough.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, well, the doctor cleared him. I'm like, okay, well, that's not good enough. And it's just like they were shooting themselves in the foot consistently that night. Like there was even the Jim Ross comment about what is her number in the Black Order or the Dark Order of the
99? Wait, is that
99?
Yeah.
Where he asked if like she would have a wardrobe malfunction.
It was weird. Like, it was bizarre.
JR needs to we need to cut it, man. The guy is done. I don't care what anybody says. He's not a good announcer anymore. A lot of the times he doesn't know the wrestlers' names. He doesn't understand the moveset. He doesn't understand what is going on. He doesn't have the energy needed anymore to really get things over. Like I pointed this out on Twitter. The Kenny Omega Hangman Page storyline after the match was done a disservice by the announce team. The announce team was acting like they were going to a commercial, and that was a major, major storyline, like a huge thing happening. And they were just talking like it was a normal situation. I'm like, they did that absolutely no favors, and it really fell flat because of that. Like the announcing team needs to put that over, needs to emphasize that Kenny Omega left Hangman to dry and let him fall flat on his face.
And he was also considering clocking him with that chair or whatever that piece of wood was, and it was a table.
And they were just having a normal conversation. Like, I don't think Tony Schiavone or JR need to be on that announced team anymore. I think it needs to be Excalibur and Taz, period. Just go with those two. They know what they're doing. Excalibur puts everybody over. He has an understanding of the moveset. He has a rich wrestling history that he loves to put over, sometimes at fault. And then Taz is just a great character that would add that element to the announced team that you need, especially if you need a heel announcer. He is that heel announcer. I just think Schiavone and JR they're an older wrestling generation. They're early to mid 90s. Like, that's a different wrestling audience than what we're dealing with now. I think you just need to have Excalibur and Taz carry the load and just move forward. Because I thought the announced team was terrible. I thought the way that they didn't put over storylines really hurt everything. I thought the Kenny Omega match, the tag match, was pretty solid. It had its moments where it was kind of bad, and then like FTR really started to come around.
It was a little long. A little long for me.
A lot of the matches were a little long.
Well, the card was damn near 5 hours, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit too long. I also don't like the fact it's starting to wear on me, the fact that they consistently do these battle royales for number one contenders. Like, let's just have a story and get the number one contender. Let's not do a fucking random ass battle royale. Like, I just don't really. I feel like it's lazy in a way. Like, they're not coming up with storylines to really push things forward. It's like, oh, we're going to have a battle royale and Lance Archer's going to win. And then we're just going to lean on a New Japan storyline to carry that forward. It's like,
and that wasn't even just a quick tangent on that, on the battle royal. Like, Lance Archer winning and, having a New Japan feud again with Mox is kind of the side story of the battle royale, because what it became about was Matt Seidel's botch, right? Like, that became the featured aspect of that match. And like, look, you botch. Like, it's not the end of the world, and he actually had a pretty decent showing after that. But I'm with you. I'm kind of over, like, that's what makes the Rumble so special, right? It's once a year, and off of that, it builds a storyline. It builds a star and a storyline. So it's, I think they're still figuring that out in terms of how to create these number one contenders that mean something. And this is not a bad one, because at least there's some history with Mox and Lance Archer, but it's definitely something they need to figure out moving forward after. Speaking of Mox, let's talk about the MJF match, which I thought was pretty good. It was really
way
solid.
Better than it was supposed to be. It had no business being that good.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just credits to those guys for telling a really, really good story, right? Mm-hmm. Like, from the beginning, where Mox is trying to do. Oh my God, I keep calling it Dirty Deeds.
The paradigm shift?
The paradigm shift from the beginning, where he's like, and he has to remember to himself that it's not allowed. The ref is, so it was just little things like that where you're like, oh, these guys are really selling the story, and these are two of the best storytellers in the ring that we have today. So, and then Mox obviously getting over with, doing it while the ref's back is turned and kind of turning the pages on MJF when he was trying to get the ring.
I love that finish. It was great. I thought that was smart.
Yeah, it was really, really good. MJF, man, that dude. Take that dude to the moon. He's incredible,
right? And I know we keep raving about him as the future, and Jonathan Snowden at Bleacher Report actually wrote, like, he's not the future, like, he's the now. Like, and I think that is perfect, because I think this what really kind of solidified this was just like his ability to have a quality in-ring match with Mox. Like, he was able to take. Like, I know that a lot of Mox's matches in AEW have been like kind of brawls, and they were able to put on a pretty like decent wrestling match, just like generic in the ring stuff, with a couple like hardcore bumps, for lack of a better term. I mean, he hit a gusher with that blade job. He was going hard, but like, they were just able to tell a solid story. MJF is kind of taking the reins from Cody as like the best storyteller within the ring. On the mic, like, he just knows the business and knows how to get over and get heat. So I thought it was a great showing for him. I kind of like the idea of him kind of hanging out in this title picture behind Lance Archer, because Mox, quote unquote, cheated. Like, he lost on a technicality. He lost because he used a move that it wasn't allowed. So I think he can kind of remain and continue to kind of play that role of a heel that got screwed out of a championship. And then I think like you said, take him to the moon. He's the future of the company. He is your star. He is the man that you can put money behind and really draw people in. So I thought they salvaged the pay-per-view with that match.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious about how you feel about this. I also enjoyed, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but there is a point to it. I also kind of enjoyed Mimosa Mayhem. Like, it was a little gimmicky because of the two vats of what can only be described as orange water on both sides of the ring.
Sunny D.
Yeah, there was no way that shit was a mimosa, because if I receive that dark of a mimosa, I'm sending that shit back. But it was I enjoyed that because it just put over Orange Cassidy huge, right? Like he's taken 2 out of 3 from Jericho in this feud, and that cements him kind of at the top of the card of AEW, which is really, really interesting, because it's like, are we ready for a Orange Cassidy title run? Maybe not yet, but it doesn't make it as crazy when it eventually does happen. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And that being said,
I didn't dislike the Mimosa Mayhem match. It wasn't great. It was the worst of the bunch.
Sure.
Of their feud,
because of they're working with what's in working within the parameters. Like, there's 2 vats of mimosa in there, and they know they have to use it. So they have to work that.
It's very similar to like a last man standing match. Like there's not many near falls to kind of raise the drama. Like they tried their hardest by like having them hang off or like dip a finger in or dip a head in. Like they were trying to generate some drama there, but like those matches in and of itself like are difficult to generate drama because there are no near falls. There is no there's not a massive swing in emotions there. So I think they did the best that they could. I think it's obvious now you move them off this feud. They've been doing it for 14 weeks. I'm pretty done here.
That's a solid build. That's a solid feud.
They did their job, and Jericho did his job. He got Orange Cassidy over. I actually would I know that we're kind of putting him in the main event picture. I would actually like to see him in the TNT title picture.
Sure.
I think he would have an interesting storyline with the Dark Order.
Yeah. I mean that's a great call. Like, because the world title picture is a little crowded right now, right? Like Mox is still firmly the champ. Lance Archer's there now. MJF still has a claim to a rematch. So I'm with that. And there's no real I know Dustin has his shot at the title on Wednesday. But
sorry to interrupt, but we need to talk about this.
Okay.
Can we just do away with the Nightmare family? That is the dumbest fucking thing on the planet.
It's I don't love it.
Everything about it.
It just doesn't. I don't know if I hate it. It just doesn't do much for me.
Like, what is Brandy's character? What is Allie's character? Like, is Dustin just like the old man, just kind of getting some run right now? And like, what's the long-term storyline here? Like, Brandy and Allie have done just about everything, and they consistently underperform. Like, they did like the Nightmare Collective, which was like a horror gimmick that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, they axed that real quick.
Like, it's just, it feels forced. Like, it feels like, to me, it's like, oh, we have contractual obligations to Brandy, Allie, Dustin, and what is it? OT? Yeah, like they have...
Oh, QT.
QT, yeah. And they're just like forcing them in these storylines that just are not entertaining and not like very like...
Yeah, that match on the card on Saturday, that felt like a Dynamite match. That felt like a dark match.
If we're being honest. I'm not trying to shit on like Dustin's work in the ring is great. He is still an incredible worker.
Still really, really good. Yeah. His timing in the ring is really, really good.
Yeah. And I really appreciate everything he's done for the business. I'm fine with him getting a title shot against Brody Lee, but at the same time, like every time they're on the TV, it's like I check out because it's like I'm just not interested in them. Like, why? Like, why are we here? So I don't know. There's a lot to take away from this in terms of like just completely underperforming. We didn't even talk about the fact that like Hangman and Omega are split, and now we have some interesting things coming out of that for the tag division. But we'll talk about that more after Dynamite. But let's
see how it plays out. And we're going to take another quick break to talk about our friends over at DoorDash. You've counted on restaurants. Now they're counting on you. And while their dining rooms may be closed, they're still open for delivery with DoorDash. DoorDash is the app that brings you the food you're craving right to your door. Ordering is easy. Open the DoorDash app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be left safely outside your door with the new contactless delivery drop-off setting. Choose from your favorite national restaurants like Chipotle, Wendy's, and the Cheesecake Factory. Many of your favorite local restaurants are still open for delivery too. Just open the DoorDash app, select your favorite local spot, and your food is on the way. Right now, our listeners can get $5 off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code BLUEWIRE. That's $5 off and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code BLUEWIRE. Don't forget, that's BLUEWIRE for $5 off your first order with DoorDash. All right, let's wrap up the show talking a little Raw. It was kind of a snoozer, a little bit, for being honest.
It was Raw. It was
Raw was Raw. I mean, before we talk about the specifics, you and I were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. That report that Raw just really has no direction right now, ironically, since Heyman left. Obviously, Bruce Pritchard is driving. Well, he's supposed to be driving both shows, right? But right. I think his focus is mainly on SmackDown, given, the Fox commitment and the Fox deal, and they're really trying to make that work. And again, as we mentioned before, Raw and USA they're kind of just, they're like married. They're stuck together forever, so it kind of is what it is. But even, yesterday it was a little alarming that no one kind of knew what was happening until hours before, like a few hours before.
Yeah, because Vince hadn't even looked at the script.
He hadn't even proved anything.
The morning of. And I think it's a consistent thing that we've been seeing lately. I know that they did this a while ago as well. It seems like it comes ebbs and flows of they'll have a run where every week they're tearing up the show hours before they go live. And it's I think they were getting into the flow with Heyman, and now that he's gone, they're just grasping at straws. And I think a good aspect of a good reason, a good thing you can actually point to here is the retribution angle. I know that they cut a promo, but the fact that they are Raw exclusive doesn't really fit with
so
their
weird.
Character.
It's so bizarre.
So they're an anarchy group that is going to stick to brand loyalty.
It's controlled chaos, Jay. It's controlled chaos.
I think they're just they're really just grasping at straws here, trying to figure out what's going to work, because they're at a loss. I haven't seen in my lifetime as a wrestling fan, I haven't seen WWE this disheveled. It just seems like they have no idea what's going on outside of the 1A storyline, which is Roman Reigns. Outside of that, I feel like they're just completely lost.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And they put in some stuff to get to kind of reinvigorate the brand in general. Thunderdome and everything else that kind of brought some sort of newness to what they're doing. But they really need to figure out and just have a direction for Raw. I just don't understand what they're doing. We got Keith Lee and Randy Orton for the 9th time in 2 weeks.
That's already run. Yeah, that's run its course. They just don't have any creativity. It's we're gonna just do the same matches over and over. Sorry, my dog is barking.
He's pissed too. He's pissed about Randy Orton and Keith Lee again. So it's well, I guess with that, let's go on to the storylines on Raw that were, I guess, of note that happened last night. Cedric Alexander finally turned after weeks and weeks of teasing that he wouldn't. And I think that's great for him. He just kind of needs a character refresher. He needs something new. And if this is what it takes, I think this is great for the Hurt Business too, because I actually enjoy, wow, I just went through puberty again. I actually enjoy the Hurt Business as a whole, but it kind of gets a little stale when they're kind of saying the same thing over and over again. When you add a new member, always adds a little bit of newness and a little bit of rejuvenation for the group.
Yeah, it's much needed. This is a good mid-card storyline. We're getting guys on TV that we don't normally see very often, and it's funny, on Being the Elite, they even made a joke about this kind of stuff. They had the Ricochet, they saw the Ricochet toy, and they're like, hey, remember this guy? It's it sucks because you have guys like Ricochet, Ali, and Cedric that are being forced to main event because for whatever reason, Vince is just not convinced that they can be stars on television when everybody is telling them that they're stars, you know? And it's like, it's really frustrating. So I'm excited to see where they go with Cedric, because he desperately needs to be on TV. He's that good. And he's going to get that MVP rub, who was kind of giving it to Shelton Benjamin, who's giving it to Bobby Lashley. Like, I'm hoping that they give that MVP rub rubs off on Ricochet and Ali, because they deserve it as well. So it's a positive sign. I'm not holding out hope that this is going to go anywhere great. Like, I have a feeling it's going to fizzle out fairly quickly, because I just think that's the way Vince kind of thinks about things, especially when it comes to these mid-card storylines. So
I was honestly hoping Ricochet was going to be the one who turned, because that would have been just a big, or at least both of them. You know what I mean? And because Cedric kind of needed the refresher, Ricochet desperately needs it. Like, there's no
Ricochet
reason
back to NXT.
There's no either that, or they need to find him something. There's no reason this man and Ali should be main eventing main event. Like, that makes zero sense.
And they're like, it's funny because, like, if you follow them on social, they're throwing shade.
They're leaning into it. Yeah, they're throwing shade and leaning into it. Like, watch us on main event. It's on Hulu. Did you know that?
Yeah, they're putting on fucking bangers on Hulu on a main event. Like, it just really sucks, because I don't think that's ever going to be noticed by Vince, because he really doesn't care about the in-ring stuff. Like, he only cares about, like, certain aspects of storytelling, and those things I think are just dated. Like, he's so out of touch, and it's really fucking frustrating. So I think, I would love to see Ricochet back in NXT, because I think he can do some firework. Like, you can put him, because he never got a title run, like a legit, like, NXT, like, him feuding for the title. Man, if Finn wins on tonight, and he wins the title, fucking put Ricochet on NXT. Let's do Finn Ricochet.
Oh my God, that's 5 stars already just booking.
Because then you have Finn as your heel, and Ricochet comes in as your squeaky clean babyface, and you just go with it. Like, what else are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna do Finn versus Adam Cole, like, for the 100th time? Are you going to do Finn versus Tommaso Ciampa? Are you going to do Finn versus Johnny Gargano? Are you just going to cycle through the same guys? Or are you going to try to, like, bring in some new blood? Like, I know that they have Damian Priest and what's his name? Thick Boy. I can't remember his name. Bronson Reed.
Yes. Thick Boy.
Kind of feuding over the North American title, but I just feel like they need new blood when it comes to the NXT title. So I just want to see Ricochet succeed. I think he has an incredible skill set. I used to love watching him as in Lucha Underground and all that stuff. So, like, I have a soft spot in my heart for Ricochet.
Just anything new for him.
Yeah, another thing that's kind of, it seems like they're gonna do is probably bring the tag titles together and just unify them.
It kind of makes sense now, right? They're all in the same place. There's really no reason for Raw and SmackDown to have their own tag titles. Just have whoever's the tag team champions go between both shows, kind of like the women's tag titles. And, I think that's just a smart move for right now. When crowds come back... Say again?
They don't have enough tag teams to have.
Right, on each show. So, yeah. Once crowds come back and you go back on tour, then you can re-separate them. But right now, it just doesn't make any sense. And, Street Profits, Cesaro and Shinsuke, that's going to be a banger of a match.
It's a good match. It's just we were consistently getting Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Andrade. It's like, we're just going to...
We had that for like over a month.
Yeah, it's like they just cycle through the same thing until it's like, we don't want to, like, you're just like, kill me now. I don't want to see this anymore. So I like the idea of unifying the belts. I think they can potentially do that with all their belts, to be honest with you. Like, they just don't have the amount of talent, especially during the pandemic, to really make the case for having all these belts. Like, there are so many belts. I think it'd be really interesting and fun to have a single belt that everybody can chase. I know that limits the storylines, but at the same time, like, right now they're stretched really thin when it comes to the storylines. So I'm interested. I'm into the match. I think, fuck it. Let's have Street Profits as the unified tag champs.
Absolutely. Though, get them more on, get them on
like,
SmackDown too.
You know what this is like making me think though, is that Otis is going to definitely cash in on tag. On tag
titles. Like fulfill his. That's interesting. I hope not, because that would. I'm still a big believer in the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think most people are. I would really, really devalue it.
I totally forgot that he had it I had forgotten that he had it, and then this past week on SmackDown, like it was like thrown into the storyline with Morrison stealing the briefcase. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, Otis has the briefcase, and it's just like it's this money. Everything that they've done this year seems to have been a gigantic waste. And
and I mean, I think some of that, not to put it all on them, I guess just to play devil's advocate, is like the pandemic and everything else kind of threw them for a loop. And I think just all of professional wrestling in general, right? And they've been trying to adjust. They've done some good things, some not. Just I guess that's the kind of the norm, even pandemic or not. But they've had. I think, are they generating a net positive? I think barely. A net positive. Simply, I think a positive should be that they were able to continue at all throughout this, right? Like there's no stoppage. And albeit wasn't perfect, they put some people in a lot of danger, and they had to correct a lot of their protocols in terms of COVID and all that stuff. And luckily, thankfully, they've at least done some of that work. But yeah, I mean, it's stuff like this, like the tag team division and the 24/7 championship and all these little things that they've kind of like left.
Who has that now?
It's still Truth. I think Truth got it back for the 9 millionth time. Oh, no. Is it Tozawa? Is it Tozawa?
Oh my God. It all kind of blends together. And I don't want to be like, I've been a negative Nancy this whole show, but like at the same time, like this really hit me hard this week. Like I've fallen out of favor with wrestling for the most part, and it's really bugging me. I'm hoping that tonight's match really kind of brings me back. I'm really looking forward to Cole versus Finn Balor.
Yeah, that's gonna be must see television.
And I love the fact that they're doing these Super Tuesdays just to split it up and gives us a chance to watch, like, to breathe on Wednesday nights. So, there's some positive things kind of cooking, but there's a lot of negative things going on right now.
Absolutely.
These next few months are going to be vital to like the overall success. Like WWE is not going anywhere. They're a $1 billion company, but like, I think in terms of the overall like feeling of the brand and how fans kind of react to things, it's kind of on the line in these next few months. At least in my eyes, like I just feel like there's a lot of things that are going on that a lot of people are just really fucking tired of and upset about. And so we'll see. But let's wrap up the show. Make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the red button, subscribe, like, comment, do all that good stuff. I mean, comment about how good my new camera looks and everything.
Don't do that. You don't have to do that.
I mean, I've been thriving lately. The Padres are almost 10 games above 500. It's been a great time for me outside of wrestling.
Wrap up the show. Wrap up the show, you jackass.
Make sure that you follow us on social too. You can follow us at 2 Jabronis Pod on Twitter and on Instagram and within the BR app. You can also follow me on social at Jeremy A. Loss, and you can follow Ben at Cruise Control. That's Control with a K.
And don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you download your podcasts. And if you're one of our fantastic Apple Podcast users, please, please, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling spicy, leave a review on our Spotify people. Hit us with that follow and help us climb those Spotify charts. All right, everyone. Great show, Jay. Pleasure as always. We will catch everyone. Enjoy NXT tonight. Should be a good match. Should be a good show. We will catch you on Friday. In the meantime, if you can, stay home. If you can't, wear a mask. And always and forever, Black Lives Matter. All right, everyone. We will talk to you soon. Peace.